I was able to talk to Rick Caruso's CFO at an event last year at UCLA, and he was saying there was a particular area that people, the wealthy people, celebrities are going to be moving to in droves. And we'll cover that in a moment. But I want to talk about Keanu Reeves. Did you see that last year? What happened at his Hollywood Hills home?
I mean, we're talking about John Wick here, right?
John Wick, dude. I would be afraid if those criminals should have been afraid to like actually try and go in that
He's the
man's
real
home.
deal. He
Yeah,
is the
dude.
real deal. He's got the training, so we've all seen the videos.
Let's see the video. Look at this.
Yep. That is the video I was referring to, by the way.
I know.
We've all seen it. First of all, Keanu Reeves is like one of the celebrities that everybody likes too.
How people can be desensitized, like you said last podcast, which is why we're talking about this homeless and crime situation. Because one thing I want to get into is the crime in LA. The problem with like statistics is we can be told a certain thing by certain people, and it's true, but it can be very deceiving. So, for example, in 2023, crime went down in Los Angeles, which is good, but other types of crime went up. 3 balls, 2 strikes, pressure is on. This is where we discuss real estate, property improvement, and business. Together, we'll strategize on how to win. Welcome to the Full Count. Back, everyone, to Full Count Podcast. We are going to be covering where celebrities are now moving to, or just people in general are moving out of certain areas that used to be sought after because of crime and homelessness. And to each their own of what you think, but we're just going to go over a couple things. We're not journalists, and we're not going to necessarily give you our complete opinion of what we think, but overall abstract of what's going on. So let's get into it.
Because it is important when you're moving into an area that is an element.
Okay, so homelessness and crime has been rampant in certain areas, certain neighborhoods, cities, counties. Everything's a little bit different. One thing being in San Diego. Chris, if you want to take it away, what's going on there in regards to the homelessness?
Yeah, in the middle of last year, there was they were trying to figure out in San Diego what to do with the homeless population that's on in the sidewalks camping, and it was ruled unconstitutional to basically to ban people from living on the sidewalks unless you had a place for them to go. It was around October. They opened up 400 tent parking lot area where people, it's like an open camping in Balboa Park, which if you've ever been to San Diego, you know what Balboa Park is.
Oh, it's a beautiful area.
Yeah, it's the central park of San Diego. And now this is, a lot of people will go there that before wouldn't go to shelters because it's not like anyone's really up in your business over there. It's kind of like, if you think about it, every major city tries to do something like this at some point, or it organically happens. In San Francisco, you have the Tenderloin. In LA, you have Skid Row. And it's kind of like this known
area.
Yeah, don't go in there. And it's not really frequented that much by law enforcement. The outskirts are, but not inside of it.
Right.
And so it's a small community. And Philadelphia has something similar called Kensington. And it seems like this is San Diego's version that they're creating of that. Like in Kensington. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say one of the most successful cities relationships that they've had is Costa Mesa, Newport Beach. They share this area where they house homeless, essentially, because they've been, same situation like San Diego. They want to get people off the streets, right? But in order to do so, they need to have a bed for them to stay in, which they do. I don't know why I did that, but they do have a bed for them. So if there's space for them, the police is able to send them off over there, have them sleep there overnight rather than having them live on the street, which is great. But at the same time, do you think Todd Gloria is going to be successful with that? Is that enough places for them to sleep? And what do people in San Diego feel about that? If you know.
Oh, well, I mean, I think if you were to ask the average San Diegan, would you rather them in front of the shops or in a designated area, they would prefer that they're out of sight, out of mind, right?
Right, but is it out of sight, out of mind where it's at currently?
I haven't seen it, and I haven't tried to find it, but I know where I live right next to Balboa Park, and I haven't seen it.
Spot. Yeah.
So, that says a lot right there. I have a good idea where it is. There used to be a shelter. I think I know where it is. I think it's in Bankers Hill, part of Balboa, because Balboa is in the middle of a bunch of neighborhoods. You got Bankers Hill,
Right.
Hillcrest, North Park, and I think it's Bankers Hill. I used to live there, and one thing that was convenient about it is Bankers Hill is a really big hill, and
Yeah.
this might sound insensitive, but because it's so far up a hill, there wasn't a lot of traffic unless you didn't go up there unless you needed to, unless you had a reason to, like as far as walking goes.
Right.
I used to walk to college from there down into downtown San Diego, and greatest trip ever. But then I would take a cab to come back because that hill was treacherous, right?
Right.
Um, so I think where it is it's right in between Bankers Hill and Gaslamp area, where a shelter is or was at that time. And I used to see, the shelter right around the time the movie Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith and his son
Oh,
came
it's a
out.
while ago then. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember seeing the lines, and it just, kind of reminded me of that. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it's kind of sad. People are trying to get in there a certain time in the evening. But I think one thing, if you really think about the ideology of a lot of homeless people, is they do prefer freedom, and they value freedom, maybe even in some cases, maybe a lot of cases, more than responsibility. And so if
Oh,
you're
for
giving
sure.
them a parking lot where there's not really a lot of jurisdiction there, they're free to kind of do whatever they want within their tent, within, reason, right? Um, then maybe they would prefer that over going to a shelter where there may be some sort of rules. You can't leave when after you come in for the night. You have to stay
Mhm.
here for the rest of the night or you'll lose your room or something. I don't know if that's the type of rules they have, but I would imagine that is the case, right? That you're not free to go. You show up at a certain time in the evening
Right.
and then
Well, that's why, from my understanding, there's a significant part of that population of homeless people that, because they know there's rules that they have to
Mhm,
follow, and like you said, there's that freedom element that they really like. They don't
mhm.
want to stay there because there's certain rules that they got to abide by, and that's the reason why they tend to be on the street. A lot
And
of them.
And the one thing, I would say one of the downsides is anything that happens in there becomes a major, a local major news story. Like just recently, 30 of the people that live there and 4 of the folks that work for the charity that runs that area
Hmm.
just became ill with, something that probably shouldn't say, but it doesn't sound too serious. Nobody went to the hospital over it, and it became a big news story.
Right.
Um, And now it seems like that was really just who knows what happened. Who really knows what happened, you know?
Right. I mean, I think it's good if if they're able to contain it in a particular little region, but there's so many homeless people in San Diego, just like in LA, that it's hard to say that you can have all the people there and
Mhm.
have a way to actually play a role in containing that from spilling over in other places, because it just seems like these major cities, LA, San Diego, continues to gravitate more homeless people from other states, and then it's just a mess that continues to be like a situation that's going to continue for a long time, if not ever. So it's very, very concerning, to say the
You
least.
one thing that's real concerning is, I don't know, I guess I personally am not in fear of my life, but there's this new thing where they there's this mixture of fentanyl and a tranquilizer,
Hmm.
and I was walking my dog, I wanna say a month, 2 months ago, and I was kinda, like, just watching my dog while I was walking and looking down, and I realized that I just walked upon what you would see, like, in a movie,
No way,
like
dude.
a zombie, right? And it made zombie noises. It didn't really look up at me. I wasn't afraid because
Right.
the person wasn't able to, like, move quickly at all. My dog was terrified of this. Like and subscribe, or the dog gets it. This. And it's because it basically they're tranked out, right?
Yeah.
It's like a tranquilizer almost, but they're still able to stand up. And you see a lot of that, if you go on YouTube and look up, the Tenderloin and Skid Row, you're going to see that combination. That's the new combination. I don't know who decided that we're all going to do this way, but it
Right.
seems to be what everybody's doing out there these days.
Yeah, but
And
that's the thing. It's not just contained in certain areas, it's everywhere. That's
yeah,
the main problem. That's why people are not wanting to go to particular neighborhoods to live or buy or whatever, and they're trying to go to other places. Like
Mhm.
for example, I want to talk a little bit about crime in LA. One of the major reasons that we see crime in LA is, there's opinion out there that the district attorney is not tough on crime, and in many cases, I believe that's probably true. But not getting into that, but a lot of it also has to do with the LAPD, for example, doesn't have enough sworn officers on duty. They keep losing people. And I
Mhm.
think right now they're under 9,000, which is the lowest they've ever had since like the 1990s. And the new
Mhm.
mayor, or actually she's been there a little over a year, I think now. She's trying to get it back to 9,500, if not 10,000. But that's probably not going to be the case because a lot of cops are demoralized because of the whole zero bail, the district attorney, which we'll
Yeah.
talk about the zero bail a little bit later. But it's constantly not having enough people that are police officers to be out there is a big problem. In Beverly Hills, what they're doing, and it's really good for the people and residents in that community, is they have
Mhm.
private security on top of the Beverly Hills PD. So only cities that have that ability to have the money to do that can have that extra, you know, ability to patrol the area. And let me turn on these lights real quick. I'll be right back.
What's up with this? He seems to be a rather famous
Who's that?
DA. How do you say his name? It's George Gascon.
Gascon. Gascon, yeah.
Gascon. I mean, this guy's. I think recently, or no, this is back in 2021. There's so many recent examples of it, but I mean, he's always in the news. And in this case, it's he released a killer that was on a convicted killer that was on a 50-year sentence, 6 years into it, right? And he was also in 2022. Um, there he released someone on a life prison term, um, and that person murdered someone. And it seems like, and then recently today, I think
Mhm,
it's New York, right? DA Alvin Bragg.
mhm.
He's known for being one of the people that charged Trump, right?
Yeah, oh, that's right, and I was like,
And
why does that name sound familiar?" Sorry, go
yeah,
on.
and so today he released some migrants that were attacking cops. Like he basically just let
Oh,
them
dude,
get out of.
that's a huge story. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he released them, and they were attacking cops in Times Square. So what's up with this new DA? That I mean, there's got to be another side to this where I mean, he's defending it, but it's hard to defend it after, especially when something bad happens afterwards. In the case of DA Alvin Bragg, we haven't seen the them do anything bad after that, right? But I just feel
Not
like
yet.
people want to know that violent criminals, you can make the argument for the people that have been placed in, imprisonment that weren't violent and they're placed amongst violent people. I think that's a very compelling argument to make. They shouldn't be mixed with those folks, right? But in these cases, if someone's violent, I don't think nonviolent people want them around unless they've, uh, basically served their time. They paid their debt to society. I think
Mhm,
that, I mean, who's a fan of violence other than the violent?
right. I mean, it's hard to say, but I think these district attorneys, for the most part, want to be well liked among people that might have had family members in situations like this that have faced consequences of their crime, and it's just a pendulum of going too far and lenient for probably criminals, and especially when you're maybe their party or whoever it is in their in the that follow them essentially
Mhm.
don't like cops or don't like law enforcement and see them as negative.
Mhm.
I think that's what it really comes down to, and that's why we're seeing things like this constantly continue to happen.
Well, there has been, and it's interesting you said pendulum, because there was, like, for instance, I think it was a Portland uh,
Hmm.
prosecutor who, lost his job because of, the crime that was rampant. I hope I'm not mixing up with Seattle, but I'm pretty sure it was Portland.
Was that after that one zone back in like the pandemic time
Well, that
where there was
was
lawlessness?
well, yeah. I mean, the Chop City was Seattle. I don't know if it was Seattle. Obviously Portland had its own thing. It didn't have a name called Chop City though. But
Mm.
I mean,
Okay.
Chop City is an interesting case study because I feel like most Americans don't know about it, but if you were on Twitter during that time, you know about it. And I do know people that lived in the area at the time, and they did tell me, you know, a lot of it was overhyped. A lot of it was, you know what it probably was like. It was probably like Tijuana, where in Tijuana, in the middle of the day,
Tijuana.
it's no, in the middle of the
Funny how
day,
you
it's
say
like
it. Uh-huh.
it's super, it's peaceful. You're eating tacos. There's no
Right.
problems, right? And the sun goes down, and then if you have skin the color of mine, it's not really that safe of a place to be anymore. And I feel like Seattle and the Chop City, the same rules applied. People were having fun in the day, artsy type of stuff, the parents aren't home, that sort of thing. And then when nighttime hit, that's when it got crazy.
I'm looking up Chop City. If that's that one zone that happened in the pandemic, is that where it was complete
Oh, yeah,
lawlessness?
that's
It was,
absolutely, yep,
and
Chop
they had
City.
their own zones. Oh, I thought it was called Chaz though. No, not
Oh,
Chaz. Is it Chaz?
you know what? It's Chaz.
Yeah, I'm like, what Chop City? It doesn't sound right to me. But yeah, you're right. I mean, because the people there were like, we don't like cops, we don't like
I
rules, we
messed it
want like,
up.
yeah, they even made
Oh,
their
no,
own
no, no, no,
borders,
no.
right?
No,
Didn't
no,
they
no.
make their own borders?
Okay, hold on. I was right, but you were
You
right
were right.
too.
Oh, okay.
All right, so it was called Chaz initially,
Chaz, yes,
and
yes.
then later when the authentic people took over, they realized Chaz is a terrible name for this situation. It
Okay,
sounds like a bunch of nerds. And then it was
okay, got
called
it.
yeah, and then it was called The Chop.
Well, that's a little bit confusing, but so it's the same thing then, but they
Yep.
just changed the name. That's good to know. But like you were saying, some people, do you say some people or journalists said it was a bit overblown? Like people out there, I think you said people,
No,
right?
no,
That
no.
might live there.
Yeah, I knew someone that lived in Seattle that was visiting San Diego, and I was talking to them about it,
Hmm.
and they told me they were in the area. But look, even though that may be the case, there were people that owned property that couldn't go outside and like expect
It's
an ambulance.
terrible.
So
I
I mean,
mean,
like, if you say like, hey, look, it wasn't that big a deal. There were people that lived inside of a place
I
that
couldn't leave it.
couldn't call an ambulance because there was all of a sudden these barricades there, so they don't have emergency services, right? And
Yeah,
so the, it's not just like you can't just take over an area and then say, you know what, everybody, everything that you've paid for, everything that you've worked for in your community doesn't matter anymore. We're taking it back, and or taking it in the first place. They never had it to begin with, right?
in Tijuana and Baja California, Mexico, I'm very familiar with that area. Me being Mexican, background, but
Mhm.
in Tijuana, you're right. It during the day, it's great. A lot of times, you can do what you want. After hours, in certain areas, it can be very dangerous, where people decide to not leave their home after a certain time. And I think having that in the United States is horrific. So I don't think it's good to measure in that regard where we can compare it to a country like Mexico where things are really bad. That
I
that
mean,
should never happen again. You know what I'm saying?
well, yeah, I mean, and I think that there were certain points during 2020 where I would have felt more comfortable in Tijuana, no question.
In certain,
Certain
yes,
certain
yes,
places,
certain
certain
parts.
places,
I
certain
agree.
parts. You
Right.
know, it was it's kind of a strange time, but here we are in 2023.
24.
Oh, here we are in
It's
2024.
February, like what, 4th or 3rd.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's very interesting and telling of how people can be desensitized, like you said last podcast, which is why we're talking about this homeless and crime situation. Because one thing I want to get into is the crime in LA. The problem with like statistics is we can be told a certain thing by certain people, and it's true, but it can be very deceiving. So, for example, in 2023, crime went down in Los Angeles, which is good, but other types of crime went up. So, the people on maybe the Gascon side is saying, we're doing a great job. Crime went down in LA, but there's more to that, right? There's more to that data where other people are saying, no, crime actually went up in this way. So, for example, crime went up a lot when it comes to property crime. When it comes to like actual violent crime, luckily it did go down. But in reality, since 2019 till now, it's actually increased in terms of violent crime. So I'm going to share something here for you, or with the audience, an article that kind of is a little bit telling, where it's a city council member of LA saying crime went down, but the LAPD chief, who's about to retire, I think in this month, basically said, okay, yes, but in reality, crime is still up. So let me share that.
Yeah, if you're not arresting anyone, it doesn't mean the crime went down.
That too. The data will not show that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're allowed to
Very good.
steal up to $999, all of a sudden theft's going to go down
Mhm.
because you're not reporting anything above $999.
So, council member, can you see the screen? Yeah, I think so, right? Yeah.
Right.
Council member, what's her name? Nithya Raman. She was basically pointing out that the fact that crime has gone down. Homicides in LA were down 26% through April 1st. This was in 2023, comparing 2022 to 2023. Compared with the same period last year, robberies have declined 19% over the same time frame, while violent crime is down nearly 12%. Right, so that's good. That's good. But when you zoom out, which is what the chief was kind of explaining, which was what right here, that when you compare crime data from before the pandemic, after the pandemic, in reality, homicides are still up 8% from 2019 till now, or till 2023. And
That's a
number
big
of
number,
shooting,
8%
that's a
in
lot.
LA.
And yeah, and shooting victims has climbed 30%, and the number of vehicle thefts has been up 47%. And I mean, here's one more too that I want to share. Another article. Give me 1 second.
You know what the truth is, though? When you have politicians saying there's no there, and there's really a problem, that problem is going to perpetually get worse.
What do you mean by that? There's no there there? What do you
So whenever a politician, for example, if a politician who's responsible in some capacity for violent crime and protecting the citizens, if they're promoting the idea that it's not violent and it's not violent, but it is violent, if they're doing those that while it is violent, then that means that no one's working on the solution. So it will naturally get worse. It's
Oh,
just going to
yeah,
get worse.
got it.
If no one's actually trying to solve the problem, it's going to get worse. You know
Right,
what I mean?
especially with not enough police officers and a lot of them being demoralized by, them knowing they're gonna arrest someone. Granted, it's misdemeanors and other things where they
I mean,
arrest them
I
and
considered
immediately
it.
they're released.
I mean, I considered that. You know, I'm obviously moving. I was like, it'd be kind of cool to be a police officer. And I was like, you know
Yeah,
what? No way.
no. I
That would
mean,
be terrible.
we need them, but yeah, I don't know. So check this out. Here's data from 2023. Um, crime has so within the last year of that time period, personal theft has gone up 42%. Burglary has gone up 14%. Motor vehicle theft has gone up 10%. That's a lot. Robbery was up 4%. That's still a lot. Any growth in crime from year to year is, even if it's a little bit, is still very bad. You want to continuously see it go down, obviously. But in regards to like the violent crime, fortunately, it has gone down. But going back to what Chief Moore, retired Chief Moore was saying, in reality, when you compare it to 2019 figures, it's still
Hmm.
up dramatically. And like you were saying, it's not going away unless we do something about it. Like, one, hiring more police officers, which does not look like it's going to be the case. I have a handful of then LAPD friends of mine that are no longer cops in LA because of how they were treated or whatever the case may be. And I don't see this going away. So that's
Can you
kind of
put
a
that back
scary.
up? Can you put that same graph back up?
Sure.
I noticed something in there that I think a lot of people could find interesting.
Right here. You
I
see it?
always like issues. I always like issues where you can really bridge partisan lines. All right, if you look at the R word, the second from the bottom, I'm going to
Yeah.
say it. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
How can you make the claim that there's negative 19%? I mean, why are they not celebrating it? Think about that. How do they know that? What does that mean? Negative 9. 20%. They just solved it by getting
Mm,
rid of Harvey Weinstein, and now it's all done.
yeah. I don't know.
Why
I have no
negative
idea.
19? That's a big number.
Hmm.
Why is there not a parade? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Does it mean it's harder to report this stuff now?
I don't. I hope that's not the case.
Does it
But
mean people are more afraid to report this? Maybe people don't trust the police.
or maybe they're not getting their calls in time, or they fear for their life. Unfortunately, but Gascon
Negative
is a big.
19.
That's a lot, dude. I mean, that's good,
I mean,
but
if
I,
it's
I don't
true,
know.
but
I
I
don't
don't
know how
think
they
anybody
trace it
believes
though.
that. I
I
don't think
don't
anybody
know.
believes this number. You know what I mean?
I think
Like,
we're gonna
what
have
is
to bring on a one of these experts to tell us how they track that. That'd
negative
be
19? So, hey, for now, let's celebrate.
yeah. I don't have any drinks today. Besides my water here.
This is just water
I was gonna have wine, but it didn't work out that way today.
and
But
vodka.
what I was gonna say though, kind of going back to the that graph, you know how you saw some of it improving, some of it not improving. Gascon District Attorney of LA is going to be running again for 2024. I would probably say we're going to be seeing that data split in two, where one candidate's celebrating one, the other one is saying why it's so bad in LA. So
I
that's
would like to
why
have dinner. I would like to have dinner with that guy, just
yeah,
so I can talk to him. Like, so what's going on,
he's a
man? What's
character,
the
I
real?
would say.
Yeah, what's really happening here?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't
you know,
I don't know. There's a Todd Spitzer in Orange County. He's a district attorney there, and it's quite funny what he has to say about Gascon.
Are not prosecuting theft. Jessup Bowden in San Francisco, he won't prosecute homeless for stealing out of CVS, Walgreens. Everybody on the street knows, all the criminals know, there are no consequences. In Orange County, California, you come here, we're going to arrest you, we're going to prosecute you, and we're going to send you to prison. So we won't have it here, but they'll have it in San Francisco and they'll have it in Los Angeles.
But going back to the main reason why we're even talking about this is what I'm seeing in LA. A lot of these nice areas, Hollywood Hills and other places around LA, a lot of celebrities and people, regular people that have homes, are moving out of those areas, or people that are looking to buy property are no longer as in demand to buy in those areas. They're starting to look to places like the South Bay of LA, so Manhattan Beach, those areas, the Valley, Encino, Tarzana, Calabasas, Westlake Village, Ventura County to Orange County. We're not seeing as much of a high demand in like Beverly Hills even. So it's kind of disappointing to see that. In your case, are you seeing any people in San Diego leaving certain parts of San Diego for other parts of San Diego because of the homelessness or crime?
well, as the resident non-real estate expert on this channel, the two things that I think that are really holding back the dam, the water, right,
Mm-hmm.
would be one, and you can help me on this. The golden handcuffs, right, and then number two, um, a lot. I think a lot of people bought property, in 2020, 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
You have a great mortgage rate.
great mortgage rate. Nobody wants to get rid of that. Actually, this is still number one, but it's hard leaving here. It's hard leaving Southern California. But I think whenever those interest rates come down, you might see some people. I don't know if they will. What do you think?
Life will catch up to a lot of people and they'll need to move out for a bigger or smaller place, or their kids might leave, or they might have kids, so they're going to end up having to purchase and sell. But I guess my question is more so particular to the people that are able to move. Do you have any inclination where they're actually moving from, like maybe downtown San Diego? They're moving out of there to go to other areas, like I don't know, La Jolla, or areas that tend to be a little bit less crime infested.
I mean, for me, for the longest time, I've been here for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
I always felt like living in San Diego, and I'm sure everybody in Southern California feels this way. I always felt like living here, everybody talked about how, like, my family back home in the South, like San Diego, and I just felt like I was better than everyone from living here. Like,
Yeah, because
better than, it was like a prestige. Like, the weather
everybody
is so
talks about it.
amazing.
Yeah.
The weather's great. And back in like 2010, it wasn't hard to live here. It was easy. 2011,
Right.
2012.
hmm
Do I think I see people leaving? I mean, me personally, we're finally leaving, but I think a lot of people are still. First of all, I think people are trapped. When
So you
cost of
think,
living so high, it's hard to save money to get out of here. It's like
right,
it's hard to get on your feet to leave, and that's
right.
kind of a crazy thing. But it's almost easier to stay. I feel like a lot of people might be trapped here, and maybe in their mind.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing about San Diego, it's not as bad as other parts of
Mhm.
California. So that's the good
No,
thing.
but it is the most expensive place to live.
hmm
As of 3 months ago, U.S. News
They
reported.
said number 1 or number 2.
Well, it's number one because when you combine the cost of living income ratio,
Yeah.
that's what makes it tough. We don't have the salaries of as San Francisco. Whenever like you live in Orange County, LA area.
hmm
Whenever you heard someone lives in Wichita, didn't you just feel a little bit better than them?
That's
You know,
Nebraska, right?
that's in Kansas, I think.
Oh, well,
I could
look
be
it up.
wrong. See, I don't
Yeah,
even
look it
know.
up. Look it up. Yeah, because I don't know where that is. But you're
Okay,
right.
how about this? You hear someone lives in Cleveland. You're like my life is automatically better than yours because I walk outside, I see sunshine most of the time.
Yeah, for
I
that
don't have to
reason, the
shovel,
weather. hmm
but there's trade-offs.
Yeah.
And the real question is like the things that I want to leave San Diego to go live in. A lot of people wouldn't be comfortable in that. You're a real estate agent. You could never live in the middle of nowhere with a lake and Starlink and Wi-Fi. You need to be around people.
I'd have
You're
to
a
move
real estate agent.
professions. Yeah,
And
that's right.
we're both with people who need to be in cities for undisclosed reasons. You know what I
Major
mean?
cities, yeah.
So where are we going to go? And I feel like no matter what, you're going to be going to a city. We're never going to go to Wichita, which we still have no idea what state that's in, and we're going to leave it that way.
Yeah,
That's
I was about to look it up right now. But
no, let's just leave it that way.
let's see
And
if people can comment and tell us where it's at.
that's kind of the metaphor here. Like nobody even knows where Wichita is, right? But in San Diego, Southern California, you have that prestige about it. Like, yeah, we're paying a ton of money, and everybody laughs at us about that. But when we're sitting in traffic, we're literally looking at palm trees and paradise. So it's this prestige
So you
about
look
it.
down and you see other things that you don't want to see sometimes, not always.
Sometimes you smell things you don't want to smell. But for the most part, you feel like when you're in this part of America that you're a part of pop culture. You're a part of the vibe of the country, at least a part of the country, right? A big part of the country is the coast. And you feel special almost by just being a resident here. But I will tell you right now that, there's a University of San Diego poll that was out, I believe it was 3 months ago, that said the majority of San Diegans would like to leave, like to relocate.
Just because of prices and stuff.
Just because of how bad it's kind of gotten when it comes to how tight it's gotten.
People are leaving California, and there was a study, and we won't talk about it today because I'm not prepared for it because I haven't looked into it enough. But I want the audience to actually gain insight, and that's why we're not going to talk about it today in depth. But they're saying people around the $200,000 to like $300,000, or even a little bit less than $200,000, people that are making that salary, they're the ones leaving California, and that's why we're seeing millions of people. I think it was like 1.2 million people recently left California. Those people, those are high incoming earners that are leaving the state.
The 10 states that have the highest taxes had the greatest outflow. California, of course, is among those states. But you also had New Jersey, New York, Illinois, other high tax states lose population. People are voting with their feet. But there's something else Chapman uncovered, by looking into the data, IRS data specifically, that an increasing proportion of the people moving out of the state are higher income. We looked at adjusted gross income. So we looked at the IRS has very accurate numbers on people leaving the state and moving into the state. And the reason they have that is because they need to keep tabs on where people are living. We looked at the adjusted gross income of those people who left the state who have AGI, adjusted gross income, over 200,000. If you go back 5 years, the proportion of the people leaving the state that had AGI over 200,000 was roughly 40%. In the most recent year, 2022, it was 70%. So 70% of the adjusted gross income of those leaving the state is being made by people making over $200,000 in AGI. That's why our state is in a fiscal mess. Think of it. If so many people are leaving the state that are high income, that means tax revenues will drop.
Because they're capable of leaving. But going back to the whole, like, where people are moving to, the reason why I brought up celebrities is because they have the means to move, right? They have the ability to go wherever the hell they want, for the most part, because they got the financing to back them. But
Right.
in regards to like LA, I want to talk about one of the primary spots that a lot of celebrities like to go to, that Rick Caruso. I was able to talk to Rick Caruso's CFO at an event last year at UCLA, and he was saying there was a particular area that people, the wealthy people, celebrities, are going to be moving to in droves. And we'll cover that in a moment, but I want to talk about Keanu Reeves. Did you see that last year, what happened at his Hollywood Hills home?
I mean, we're talking about John Wick here, right?
John Wick, dude. I would be afraid if those criminals should have been afraid to like actually try and go in that.
He's the real deal.
Yeah,
he is the real deal. He's got the training, so we've all seen the videos.
Let's see the video. Look at this.
Yep. That is the video I was referring to, by the way.
No.
We've all seen it. First of all, Keanu Reeves is like one of the celebrities that everybody likes too.
Yes.
So from a moral standpoint,
look at that. This guy knows what he's doing, bro.
Yeah, I mean, there's like two reasons you shouldn't mess with Keanu Reeves. One is because he's like a really good dude, and the other reason is because he's a deadly good dude.
A deadly good dude, yeah. A dangerous man that chooses when to be dangerous is probably like the best type of person you could be. So you're not bullied around, you can protect people.
I mean, if I was the president, Keanu Reeves would be my only Secret Service detail. I would just have him. I would fire everybody else and then send that money to like a children's hospital that we saved. And then I would have Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, he's badass, dude. I actually know where he lives because I've driven by his place. I think he still lives in the same spot in Hollywood Hills, but I can't believe that he's been broken into multiple times. I would imagine while he's gone, but stories
he
like
doesn't
this,
seem like somebody who wants to live there, like in the Hollywood Hills. He seems like someone who wants to live more isolated.
I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure he owns more than that property.
Yeah, probably.
And he probably travels constantly. But you're right. He's not a typical LA celebrity, for sure. I mean, look at his history of his life. It is not in that particular way of living per se, that have a big head, that ego. But stories like that are the reason why celebrities are moving out of certain areas. And it's really sad to see. And I hope there's a big turnaround in LA where things get better. And I think there's a possibility that might happen. But
I mean, how? I mean, why are you so optimistic? I just really feel like people don't vote in that direction.
In LA, they don't. They really don't. But I feel that some people are starting to wake up a little bit more, even people that tend to vote the other way. They're starting to see it on a consistent basis where maybe they're getting older, having families, and they're like, you know what? Maybe this isn't the way. I've heard before, though, real quick. I've heard before, when you have a family, when you have kids or wife, husband, whatever, and you have little ones that you look after, there comes a point where you become more cautious and you care more about safety. And I think that's what might be happening too.
And you said vote the other way. I think there's examples of you can vote the same way on either side, but then there'll be examples of, for instance, Mayor Adams in New York. You know, he's a former police officer, right? But he's also in that party. You can still vote the same party, but it's just really like, what are you voting for? You know, you got to. You don't have to switch sides or whatever side you're on, or you can actually go in between or whatever. But there are people with values in every party that I think could, go towards that. I think it's the people we were talking about, DA Alvin Braggs, and yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head earlier. I think it seems like a lot of that's for publicity, and I don't know what kind of publicity that is. This doesn't sound good publicity, in my opinion, but there's someone they're making happy.
There's definitely a certain population that wants that. So, with that said, though, Rick Caruso, he ran for mayor in LA. He lost to Bass, which was unfortunate.
Oh, okay.
You know,
There's also right now, I think it's the lead challenger to the mayor in San Diego,
Gloria.
Yeah, Mayor Gloria. The lead challenger is a police officer.
Oh, I didn't know that. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because recently, we had the flooding, and Larry
that was
Turner
not
is
good.
Larry Turner is his name. He's been a San Diego police officer for the past 8 years, and he recently was talking about the flooding, and he was kind of putting on his mayor hat, and he was saying, all the noise that everybody's saying, we know what climate change is. 3 to 4 inches is not climate change. Every city can handle 3 to 4 inches of rain. Why are we struggling at
San
it?
Diego, yeah.
I felt like it was a
prepared.
very good. I felt like it was a good point that he made, but at the same time, I mean, realistically, how often does it flood in San Diego? Not that much. Not that much rain.
No.
It's not a problem that I really would put too much effort into solving.
Well,
I mean,
Mission Valley in San Diego is always getting flooded. By the way, have you noticed that?
That's interesting because I mean, they technically have what's called the San Diego River, but most of the time when you're walking through it, it's like a drought.
yeah. Until it rains, really it's a lake.
But whenever it rains, like it did, we have a river all of a sudden.
Yeah, right. Okay, so Rick Caruso, where the area that everyone wants to go to now, according to them, from what I was told at the UCLA event, is Calabasas, Westlake Village is like the new Beverly Hills, is what I'm told. That's the new Beverly Hills. I still think Beverly Hills will have its trademark and everybody will like it in Beverly Hills, but going up more north in LA is going to be the spot. So Rick Caruso is putting his money where his mouth is. He's a major real estate developer. I'll share my screen now with you. But basically, he's going to be building restaurants, shops, and overall, he's going to have apartments as well. 119 residential units. I think it's going to be like 24,000 square feet. I'm trying to bring this up. Hold on one sec. So anybody that's looking to live in a very expensive home, if you don't want to be in Beverly Hills for whatever reason, or Hollywood Hills, you may want to consider going out there. Here we go. So Calabasas City Council approves his new development. So it's in this area called the Commons at Calabasas. It's like a beautiful like shopping area, but he's going to build housing there. So it says it's 2 new mixed use buildings, 210,000 square feet essentially. Buildings will hold 119 residential units with 12 affordable units and over 2,400 square feet of retail and commercial use. So he's going to places where he thinks the population growth and the future of LA is probably going to be at, is from my understanding of what he said. Obviously, I didn't interview him or talk to him directly, but that's kind of what I understood from talking to one of his guys. So very, very telling what's going to happen here. So yeah, what do you think about that?
I'm just trying to figure out who's in charge of LA the whole time you were saying that, really, because...
What do you mean by that, in charge of LA?
I mean, didn't you say that was the same person that ran for mayor?
He ran for mayor in LA and he lost to Bass, Karen Bass. She's the mayor. So Rick Caruso is a major developer. He built the Grove. and among other places too in LA. And but he lost, so he's going back to business as usual, right? So he's doing his thing again.
You always hear about the people with money really being in charge, right?
Right.
And for him to do stuff like that, you think he would have a lot of influence. For me,
There's
to
a
stay on
pendulum change, though. I don't think it's people with money necessarily anymore with the influence as much as it used to be.
To stay on the subject with the whole theme we've kind of been going with. What do you think you would have to see to leave LA?
Well, fortunately, I also work in Orange County market. I love LA. I'm not gonna lie. I really do love LA. It's a fascinating city. It's beautiful. You got all types of people, which is fun. The nightlife is great, even though I really don't even participate in that anymore. The clients are awesome. So I kind of have best of both worlds because I've been in real estate 7 or 8 years now, working Orange County, LA. I worked a little bit of San Diego too. Every now and then I'll send business over to my guys over there in San Diego. But going back to your question, I work in both markets. So I don't think I will ever leave LA market. Neither will I leave Orange County unless I leave the state of California. And even then, I still feel that I would be that person that would be bi-coastal as much as possible, maybe build a team here if I was to leave, but I don't think I'll leave LA or Orange County.
Honestly, this is, I mean, that was a completely honest statement. And this is why things are the way they are, honestly, because we love it here.
Yeah.
There's not even a line in the sand where it gets this bad, we're going to leave, right? It's, and I feel like that's why things are the way they are, because most of us are going to stick around here,
Well, yeah, most of us are, but
let me put it this way.
Orange County is like one of the best spots, I think, in terms of safety.
If
overall.
Chick-fil-A stopped serving good food, people would stop going.
Right.
Local California governments aren't serving a lot of good food. People are
Yeah.
sticking around. You know what I mean? Like I
Right.
feel like we accept it because of the things that aren't controlled by the government, right? The local governments, right? The weather,
Right.
the coast, the vibe, the people here, right? The social aspects of it, the entertainment, the pop culture.
Mhm.
I really feel that is why things are the way they are here, because we're okay with it. We're happy customers.
I can kind of agree with you on that. I try and stay involved in certain ways to improve the area. But I think I don't know, overall, if LA was to get worse, like a lot worse, then maybe I would just work in Orange County. But I feel that I'd still be able to work both markets. But that's the thing. If I was to have children and I wanted them to grow up in a school area and be around a particular part of the city, that's where shit changes. I might say the hell with LA or the hell with a certain region of LA. I'm going to only go to this little area, this little nook,
right,
and work in that area and have my children, if I have any, in that environment. So
right.
it just depends, I guess, as I get older.
So you're willing to risk it because you don't have kids, but if you had kids, obviously kids
will change.
things.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think
How
that's why
hard would it be for a real estate agent to uproot and go to a different place? That sounds like it'd be like you've made all your connections here, all your networking here.
Well, that's why I don't think I'll leave LA or Orange County, my market, my clientele.
Could you go to, I don't know, Houston, Texas, and how long would it take you to get set up there?
Shit, it's hard to say. It took me, when I first got into real estate, I think I was a realtor for 6 months, and that's when I got my first my first listing, which was a luxury listing in Hollywood Hills. But that was working my ass off, dude, like hardcore working, consistently getting rejected, got my first deal. So I would say if I go somewhere, it'll probably take me 6 months or so to break.
You don't think, I know you don't have the connections
maybe
in
less.
let's say Austin, Texas instead, right? But I know you don't have the connections that you have there, that you have here, but you've gained so much skill. Couldn't you do it in 3 months?
Maybe, but
because you've
my
learned
Rolodex will be smart. I mean, not smart, small. My Rolodex would be tiny.
Yeah, but it's kind of like you know how to play the game now, and so it just seems like you would at least have some. You would perform way better starting out somewhere new than you did originally here. I'm not saying it's a good idea. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
are you bringing any, or is it who you know? Is that the most important thing in real estate?
It's really okay to get the ball rolling. It's who you know, how many people you know, who you know. Which I knew no one in LA. I luckily did know people in Orange County that I got clients from there, but in LA I knew nobody. But now I know a lot of people. But to get the ball rolling, you got to know the people. To
Mhm.
be able to continue to let that ball rolling and actually do deals, you got to be knowledgeable. So
How
I
often
guess.
do your sales, are they referrals? Like you sold a place to someone and then like they tell their brother Timmy.
Well, for the last many years, I mean, I haven't had the referral business. As of about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I'm starting to get those referrals now coming in because I've been in the game long enough that
Mhm.
my clients now have friends or family that they tell them
Mhm.
about me, and that's the best way to do it. When as an agent or anything in sales, I would say, or business in general, when you're getting clients from referrals and that
Mhm.
constantly keeps happening, that's when you've made it.
Mhm.
When you're out there constantly meeting strangers and trying to get business from strangers and it's not coming from referrals, that's when it's an uphill battle. So to answer your question,
Mhm.
if I go to a new market, it's going to be that uphill battle. So the longer I stay wherever I am, my roots are going down further. And that's
Right.
usually that's why I'm saying if I was to move out of state, I'd want to at least be bi-coastal in terms of working, going back and forth.
So real estate kind of traps you if you're going to
Yeah,
be in the industry, selling houses. You're kind of stuck here or
I
wherever
would
you're
say
at.
so. Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Is there
unless I
another part of the industry you could go to taking your real estate knowledge? For example, could you be a broker and now all of a sudden you have this backside knowledge that would help you on the brokerage side? And I don't know what a broker is, so maybe that's not a good example at all.
I think what you're asking me is if I like formed a team and relied on
Well,
people to help me. Is that what
well,
you're?
is there any other position you could do, business you could run that with the experience you've gained in real estate, it would put you above the industry or at the same level, right? It would give you an advantage.
I guess being involved with more investors and not relying necessarily on end users, but like private equity people.
Hmm.
I would probably have to get into that game more or less. Yeah.
Sorry to sidebar this whole conversation, but I felt like those are things I wanted to know, so maybe other people would.
No, it's good. I think those are good questions, and I appreciate you asking that. It makes me think too, because I don't know, and this may not be my forever place, and the lights are out again at my work.
You got to keep LA power, like the power grid's all messed up over there.
Yeah.
Solar is not that great. I see. You know.
No, let me actually turn it back on real quick. I think it's a good segue to probably end it now because we pretty much covered everything.
I feel like this has been a great show. I'm actually not opposed to a smaller episode because I feel like people are more likely to listen to the whole thing.
And for anyone
But
who's
we were.
watching and listening, I want them to also take a look at our co-host Sway, who's handling the whole specifically baseball only topics.
Mhm.
And I think I want to give him a shout out because he's doing a good job doing that for
Yeah,
most.
I left a comment for Sway. I gave him some homework, so I do apologize, Sway, but let me read the comment that I left him
Yeah, please
because
do.
I feel like I said great MLB update. One thing the entire baseball nation is wondering is if there is any hope or plan for a rebuild with the Padres, or is it just dark days indefinitely without any real leaders? Should every baseball fan just convert to a Dodger fan?
I know, dude. That's a good question. I wonder what Sway is going to say. I was
How
having a
would Sway
conversation.
feel if like everybody just became a Dodgers fan? Would there be any pride or glory in being a Dodgers fan anymore? Would that ruin everything
I feel like it would ruin everything. Yeah.
for the Dodgers fans, which is our ultimate goal to begin with?
So maybe we should wear Dodger hats now.
Hey, everybody, for the next 2 years, everybody be a hardcore Dodgers fan. Make it not cool anymore. Look super lame wearing Dodgers gear. That's my directive.
Yeah, I'm conflicted, dude, because my grandpa was a Dodger fan. So in a way, I kind of want to be a Dodger fan, but then I was like, nah, I didn't grow up being a Dodger fan. So yeah, I don't know.
I was watching that whole episode that he did. You know, Sway's great, obviously, but for me, I feel, I'm kind of heartbroken with baseball because of the whole Padres. I feel lost. I have,
Because
despair
they're gonna be
because we
like
have no
terrible.
hope.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then Blake Snell's leaving, right? We don't know where he's going.
I say send the whole team home.
Yeah, I hope he becomes a Yankee.
We need some Moneyball type of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know what you guys need, but you guys need something.
I mean, I want to do an interview with the current Padres majority owner and just say, "What's up, dude?" Actually, I think I know someone who can help me out with that. But he probably wouldn't.
Get him on the podcast.
No, he probably wouldn't go on a podcast,
Yeah. Well, I think this was a great show. I hope everybody enjoyed it, whoever watched it or listening to it. Like, subscribe, comment, let us know your thoughts and anything else you want us to cover or you want Sway to cover on his own podcast episode. So keep us posted, everyone. Thank you.
Like and subscribe, or the dog gets it.